Now for our next challenge, let's try to get that aim in. Now, in order to get the aim in, we need another input. We need to input the right stick. So let's go ahead and go back to project settings. Let's go to input. Call this aim. Actually, we will call this aim up. And we'll map that to the gamepad's right thumbstick Y. And then we'll have aim right. And we'll put that to the right thumbstick's x-axis. Okay. So now we got to go back to the pawn. And let's call these new events. Input aim right and input aim up. What we'll do is we'll create new variables. I'm going to turn off the show inherited. And we'll make them both floats. We'll call the first one aim up. Change that to a float. And the next one will be aim right. So we'll get that value. Now remember that value is going to be minus 1 to 1 value. So let's take that value and let's multiply it by 90. And then we'll set that. And then the same with this one. Now, why are we multiplying it by 90? Well, because our blend space was set to go positive or negative 90 degrees. But we could have also reset the blend space to go negative to positive 1 and then not do the multiplication factor. That would have worked too. Either way. So now we're storing these variables for these inputs. Now we got to pull that out of the player character blueprint into the anim blueprint. So what we need to do is we need to cast to player character blueprint. Now if I just compile, it's going to come up with an error because the object is invalid. We're going to use the try to get pawn owner to get that object. So as we mentioned before, the next execution is going to be if it succeeded. So what we want to do is we want to get from that one the aim up and the aim right. So what are we going to do with that? Well, we're going to set our own aim up and aim right in the movement speed. Now this would be a lot easier if we can just come in here and do input aim up, but obviously it's not there. Because the anim blueprint doesn't really know what the game is doing. It doesn't know what pawn is in charge. It doesn't know what the inputs are. It's pretty stupid, and it's meant to be stupid. It's just taking orders from the pawn. We'll just make copies of our own aim up and aim right variables. And again, I'll put that underscore anim blueprint. And now you can see why, because now we got aim up from the pawn, and we got aim up from the anim blueprint. And if they were named exactly the same, it might get a little confusing. So just giving that little AB helps make it a little bit more readable. Again, it doesn't matter. Unreal's not going to care, but I just found it as a little readability trick that helps me. And again, these are set functions, so they have to have an execution. So you plug the execution pin in there. So now, if you remember, we have that blend space as an additive. So what we want to do is we want to take this animation, whatever it may be, and layer this on top of it. So we have our two variables there. We got the up and we got the right. So we'll plug that into the left right. We'll plug this into the up down. So now what we're going to do is we're going to branch off of this and we're going to apply an additive blend. So this animation is going to be our base, and this is going to be the additive. Now this alpha blends this effect on and off. In other words, if I set it to 0, then we won't have any aiming whatsoever. So we're going to leave it at 1, which is going to turn it on. And as you can see, the aiming is working on that. So let's see how it works in our little test engine here. So as you can see, I can aim. My inputs for left and right seem backwards. I'm actually pushing to the right now. But as you can see, he can aim while walking. That's why we did it as an additive. So since my left-right is being inverted, I'm going to flip that to minus 90. Let's try that again. Yeah, so now when I push to my left, he turns to the left, and when I push to the right, he turns to the right. Also, my stick is inverted, which I didn't notice the first time because I like flight sim, so I actually don't mind an inverted stick. So what we can do is we can come up with another variable. Invert y. And in fact, we can turn that into a integer. And this will be either 1 or -1. Oops, something didn't work right there. invert y. Oh, because it's at 0. Haha. Okay, so it's still inverted. And if I go in here and set this variable to -1, now down is down and up is up. So that's really handy. And then what you could do is you can leave that in there, and then you can use that as like a preference settings, and then your user can sit there and say, I want to inflip the Y, and you just flip that value, and then that gives you a little user customability then.